Hi, this is an overview of our DevOps pipeline. Um, as part of this overview, we'd cover what all we've done throughout the four milestones that we received, and we'll try and cover the overall architecture for the project and, uh, and various steps involved in the pipeline. So, as part of this project, we've deployed two applications, iTrust and Checkbox. Um, on a high level, we've used Jenkins for build automation. In each of our milestones, we've used Jenkins to automate build, to run certain test cases, and uh, use them to provision to for the servers. In our last milestone, we've used EC2 instances as our production service, where the Jenkins automation would basically create a build out of some active changes, and then those active changes would get deployed on a production server, which is running on an EC2 instance. So um, we've provisioned Jenkins server using Ansible playbooks. So uh, when these when the Jenkins server comes up, it comes up with certain tasks. Some of these tasks are related to iTrust, and some of them are related to checkbox. And we install certain Git hooks to be triggered when there is a change uh, inside the repository. In case of checkbox, we've used certain test scripts that are run via Mocha, and these results are used to analyze and to detect if the build has to be successful or it has to be failed. So let's just see what is the common architecture that we've used for both the applications and how we've gone about through the pipeline. So we start with the Ansible server and a Jenkins server, and Ansible server takes care of installing the dependencies for checkbox as well as iTrust on the Jenkins server. Uh, while installing the dependencies, Ansible takes care of cloning the GitHub repository from the cloud, and it gets it gets the current repository inside the Jenkins VM. Also, along with it, we set up the other dependencies that are required for running both the applications. In case of Checkbox, we use MongoDB, Nginx, and other third-party tools. For iTrust, we use MySQL and Jococo and other stuff. So the basic idea is that we have a cloned repo which is created uh, during during the setup of Jenkins, and we also create a bare repo where we have the post receive hook. So when we create a change inside the clone repo and we try to push the change, that the change gets pushed to the bare repo, and the post receive hook gets triggered. This basically would result into the Jenkins server starting the build, and it executes the test cases and it produces a build. In case of our final milestone, where we had integrated with EC2 instances as part of the Jenkins build process, once the build is successful, we take care of deploying the application via, uh, via Ansible running inside the Jenkins server, and the applications themselves get deployed on EC2 instances. So in a way, we try to cover the daily life cycle of a developer, where the developer works on a machine and he does his change, and then that change is sort of given to Jenkins, and then once Jenkins identifies that the change is successful and is not causing any harm to the test cases, Jenkins takes care of pushing it all the way to the production server, where the client is going to be using it. Just to recap what we did in our test analysis milestone, we basically created a fuzzer for iTrust where we ran around 100 tests, uh, and we and we examined test prioritization. And we also perform certain static analysis on the code using Jococo. For checkbox, we added certain metric checks where we compared the values and we compared it with the threshold value to check if the build is successful or not. For the deployment infrastructure milestone, we used EC2 to set up production servers, and we created feature flags in iTrust using Redis, and we tested certain features by sending API requests to the server, and we took care of uh, checking with Redis to see if the feature has to be available or it has to be or the API has to be declined for this feature. As part of infrastructure, we created a microservice for Markdown where we extracted the code from checkbox and we created a microservice for it and we deployed it on a Kubernetes cluster, which is which contains Docker containers. We also performed scaling up and scaling down of these instances to see if the API would work uh, in different scenarios. For the special milestone, we created a centralized logging infrastructure where we installed Logstash on a logging server and we installed FileBeat on an iTrust server, which can also be installed on a checkbox server. And the logs for the logs are then shipped from these servers, and they're shipped all the way to the Logstash server. And the Logstash server could be a central point where the logs could be monitored for, and further analysis can be performed to it. We've also performed blue-green deployments for iTrust, and that concludes our DevOps pipeline. Thank you.